Well, Raider Nation, it happened. Maxx Crosby is being traded to the Baltimore Ravens in exchange for a pair of first-round picks, and we are breaking it down here live on a Friday night. What a move. The Raiders actually did it. Now, I want to know from all of you guys right now who are joining in from us, let me know down in the comments, first of all, how you're feeling. Obviously, this is a tough one. Max is Mr. Raider. He's that dude. I want to know, are you more fired up about the return or more bummed out about the fact that Maxx Crosby is indeed being traded? And now that the Raiders do have the 14th overall pick, that's the pick they're getting from the Ravens this year, that first-round pick. I want to know what you want to see them do right there at number 14 overall. For my instant reaction to them getting that pick, I'd say go for Miami edge rusher Akeem Mesidor. The dude is a savage. He logged a 92.5 PFF pass rush grade, which is the sixth best among draft-eligible edge defenders. He didn't work out at the combine or anything like that, but he comes in at 6'3", 260 pounds. And here's the 411 on him from Lance Zierlein's draft profile, okay? Mesidor is an instinctive, high-effort edge rusher with a fluid rush style and a deep toolbox. He bursts upfield and can shrink the corner while punishing oversetting tackles with inside counters. He strings moves together with effortless mid-rush adjustments, utilizing harmonious hands and feet to carve efficient tracks into the pocket. He's a problem for guards when reduced inside as well, so he's got the versatility there. His urgency shows up in run defense, where he uses play strength and short area quickness to disrupt blocking schemes and stay around the football. So, guys, like I said, Mesidor, the guy that I would actually bring in, to help kind of quote-unquote to replace Maxx Crosby, because you're never going to be able to do just that. And look, guys, you guys are pouring in right now into the chat, so I'm going to jump in here and take a listen to this, because this is very much a live breakdown show of what's going on. Obviously, we all kind of expected this would be the case, that he would be traded. At least that was where I came around to. For so long, I'd held out saying, we haven't heard it from Max. I'll believe it when I see it. And over the last handful of days, whether it was on Raider Nation Radio or even today over at Fox 5 here in Las Vegas, I joined the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network, and we were breaking it down. And I was like, hey, look, I think I've come to the realization that's probably going to happen. And they asked me where some of the good spots would be for him to land. Chicago was obviously one of the teams in the mix. The Cowboys had kind of flirted with it. But I was like, the Ravens would be the spot to go. Yes, you want 2 firsts and a player, but I didn't think that would happen. I said that 14th overall pick this year, you know exactly what it is. And the players you could get makes that so much more valuable. And so that's what the Raiders indeed do. They get the 14th overall pick and another first-round draft pick next year. Like I said, I'll jump to the comments here in a second. But I think the important part about this is, again, getting the 2 first-round picks this year. Massive turnaround potential if you go Fernando Mendoza and then, like I said, like a Mesidor, somebody to hopefully be able to help you replace Crosby right away. And then you have 2 picks in next year's draft where it's a very heavy quarterback draft and everybody seemingly is going to be looking for a quarterback there. You have 2 picks in the first round that could be pretty good picks. Obviously, Ravens one's probably going to be a little higher if they revert back to who they've been. But you got some firepower now in next year's draft to make a whole lot of moves and inject a lot of talent, okay? We saw the Raiders a handful of years have 5 first-round picks after trading, Khalil Mack and all that stuff, and they blew it, and obviously nobody from those picks is on the team anymore. Josh Jacobs was the only one that they really hit on, and that really set them back so far, and that's why this roster, one of the reasons why this roster is so devoid of talent. So now you have more ammo, you have a new coach in place, you're going to get your quarterback, and you can start to invest around him. So I think it's an exciting time for a lot of Raiders fans. Now, let's jump into the comments here, guys, and start seeing what you guys are saying in here. No Limit Kappa Lot 1540 said, I'm hurt. My chest hurts. 2 firsts is fair value, though, says Pigs 76. Yeah, look, I agree. I get it, guys, because, I'll tell you this. I loved covering Maxx Crosby. Good God. As a media member, he is about as good as you could possibly hope for in terms of having the opportunity to cover someone like that. Max was always great to me. I had an opportunity to meet some of his buddies and meet him at a couple of UFC fights and stuff. And so they were always so good to me anytime I saw them. Max is one of those dudes that always says what's up in the locker room. We'll chop it up with you. Obviously, he's a big UFC guy and would always talk fight game with me because I do jiu-jitsu, I box. I'm really into the fight game. And so he would always chop it up about that. And so I'm bummed that we're not going to have those opportunities to do it anymore. Obviously, you guys more bummed for more real reasons because this is a dude that bled silver and black. He literally got it tatted on himself. And so I'd imagine when he does release a statement or when he does a video or whatever it is probably going to be one of the more heartfelt videos, goodbye videos you'll see to a fan base probably ever. But I agree with you, Pigs 76. 2 1s is fair. I know that a lot of people, myself included, thought, hey, maybe that Micah Parsons deal will be out there where you get the 2 firsts and like a Pro Bowl caliber player. Obviously, in the Cowboys trade, they got Kenny Clark, who was a 3-time Pro Bowler. But the thing is, with Max and his age, he's going to be 29 in August. Obviously, yes, he has played a ton of football, but the durability issues in terms of missing some games and getting hurt and whatnot, even though he wanted to play through it and all that, I get that. I can see why maybe the third one, the kicker there of the extra player isn't involved in that. 2 firsts is so fair, especially one of those firsts you already know is the 14th overall pick. That is so valuable for this team, okay? And that to me is massive. Let's see. Stanley Victor 9359 says, great move. I'm pumped. I'm glad to see that you're on the right side of feeling this one, man, because that's big. You guys have to realize it's like one of those bittersweet ones, I think, for a lot of Raiders fans, because it's like you're like, damn, we just lost like a dog who put on for the Raiders. But then now you look ahead to what it can bring to this franchise and everything like that, And Raider Big Dog 74 said he had to go. No one is above the shield. Let's go. And look, I totally get that. I think I'll say this. I think Max earned the right to call his shot to be able to be traded, all right? He has been here, done that. He has put up with a lot of stuff. My God, the amount of cycling that this franchise has gone through and all that stuff. And he has been a warrior and battled so hard for this team. And if he didn't want to be there anymore, I think he earned the right to do that. And I think this is one of those rare situations where it works out to where he goes to a team that I think is going to be really good, especially with Jesse Minter taking over, kind of resetting, but still the same DNA for the Ravens. You look at that defense, they are stacked. They obviously have their quarterback in Lamar Jackson. And 2, for the Raiders, again, you get the 14th overall pick and then an extra first-round pick next year to really help you kickstart this rebuild and go all in on building from the ground up. So, again, I feel like it is a win-win for everyone involved, in this situation. Let's see. Let's say triple ICN, I think it is. If the top 3 O-line are gone, best defensive guys go top 10 as well. We get Fernando, a number 1 wide receiver. Hey, look, what is it, Mekhi Lemon? He might be able to be there. I mean, he'll very likely be there. I'd be curious to see if they go the route of adding a number 1 weapon to him at the top of the draft. I don't necessarily think that's the way they would go. But, again, yeah, get him a guy. I think they're more so going to be looking probably on the defensive side of the ball. I think they go offensive and defensive because now they need somebody to build around on the defensive side of the ball. You'll have Fernando Mendoza. You can build around him. That's why I say Mesidor, because he's like that next dog that's likely available in that round there, in that area. Maybe an Emmanuel Warren, if you really feel different about that guy. But I think this is a group that's going to want to build up that front seven, going to want to build up the trenches. That's why I lean more Mesidor. But I wouldn't be shocked, too, though, to see him maybe go wide receiver. It's a sexy pick. But I think Mesidor is going to be one that's going to be a guy to keep an eye on. Again, knee-jerk reaction there. Let's see. Yeah, Jacob Rivera, 3081 said, Miami pass rusher. You and I are on the same page, my man. KCP1N0Y. Man, you guys ain't making it easy with me on some of these names. He said, I thought Spy Tech keeps good players. Yes, look, and I get that. I get that sentiment. And he said he doesn't want to see good players walk out the door and all that stuff. But I think they're really committing to a rebuild in this situation. And being able to send Max to a good situation and hit the reset button in a big way for your franchise, that's, I think, where it outweighs it in this situation. Because it seems like things just weren't going to be mended. The fences were not going to be mended in this case. Otherwise, they don't make this move. Otherwise, they keep Maxx Crosby because he is everything you want in a player. The motor that he plays with, the attitude, the way he puts on for the franchise, all that stuff. This move doesn't get made unless Max said, I'm good. I want out. You know what I mean? So I think this is one of those deals where Max said, I can't do this anymore. And so they said, okay, we'll get you out of here. I think that's how it went, honestly. Max didn't want to be the guy that's out in the media saying all these things, asking for the trade, all that different stuff. I think he handled it as good as you possibly could have. That's why I think we see Spy Tech moving on from him and doing this. Let's see. Tony Brown, 95 says, take that 14 and 36 and move up to 5 to get an even better pass rusher. Damn. Okay, you're talking some real moving and shaking. That would be very interesting if the Raiders go and do that. I mean, you go and make a move like that. Let's just go. I've got the Pro Football Focus mock draft pulled up here. Let's just jump up, high enough. I mean, shoot. You go and look, you could get David Bailey, obviously, within the top 10. There's a Caleb Downs, even if you want to stick with defense as well. Caleb Banks to be able to solidify the center of your defense there with him. I mean, I think that's going to be key for them, that because you guys know how key it is to get that pressure up the middle. If you can get up high enough and even get like a Reuben Bain Jr., the other guy from Miami, man, that would be massive as well. God, there's so many options. Obviously, Sonny Styles, if he even makes it that far, he put on a hell of a show. That would be interesting to do that. Having said that, I don't know if they're going to jump their way back up there. I think they probably want to stay put and be able to get 3 really good guys they can build upon to see who's going to be available there in the second. Because I think the move for them could be maybe you double up defensively at 14 and then now at 36 as well, because I think there's going to be some really good defenders there at 36. In the podcast over the recent couple of days here, we broke that down. I think Gabe Yakas out of Illinois is a guy that would be very interesting. Lee Hunter possibly slides and is available there. Caden McDonald from Ohio State could be there too. So you could get your edge rusher in a Mesidor, and then you could also possibly find a running mate for him on the other side in Yakas, or solidify your nose tackle with either Hunter or McDonald if they happen to be there and slide to him. Or I really like Blake Miller, the right tackle from Clemson. If he happens to be there, that guy is a dog. You solidify now the right side of your offensive line. You already have Colton Miller. That would be very interesting to me. Let's see. JCDA Twin C5C8H. Man, another mouthful there. But he said, finally, if they don't want to be here, peace. No one is bigger than the Shield. And look, I agree. If somebody doesn't want to be there, like, go ahead and let them move on. I totally agree with that. And damn, there was a lot of questions that I want to get into there, but the chat just jumped on me. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys, that did it. But I do see there is a super chat from the Space Beast. Shout out to Space Beast. You've been on these lives a lot when we've done these ones, man. I appreciate you. You said, let's effing go with the flags and all that stuff. Hey, look, yeah, I think it is an exciting time, for the Raiders to be able to do this. And now, again, having the ammo. You guys have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years. Like, if Spytek handles this right, that is going to change the franchise for the Las Vegas Raiders. We've seen this before. Obviously, it didn't work out before. But if they get these ones right, they actually have their quarterback coming in. That's when things really start to change for you guys. And so that's why I'm excited, for all of you, for this one. Let's see. Spytek. Okay, so I found my way back in here. Jeffrey, YW1TE. Good God. Spytek has the ammo to move around the draft. Agreed. But again, I personally, my take, I don't think it's going to happen at the top of the draft now. I think they stand pat there at 14, unless they just fall in love with somebody in there. Let's see. Tony Brown said, feels like Mac all over again, but I understand. Yeah, I get it, man. It's a tough history for Raiders fans, for you guys, dealing with these guys, these top edge rushers, the way it's gone down like that. I hate that for you guys in that aspect. But again, like, look ahead. And now the draft just got a hell of a lot more interesting. Obviously, I know you guys are fired up for Fernando Mendoza, but all the intrigue was just like sucked out of the building in the first round, And so now there's some real intrigue for everyone involved. For us as media members now, too, we got our work cut out for us, really digging and diving to see what they can do. But like I said, Mesidor, to me, sticks out as a really good option for him there at 14 overall. Let's see. McDave Balls, or Mr. Dave Balls, okay, said low-key sucks, not going to lie. Yeah, I feel you, man. Like, again, that's where I understand, like, the high and low of trying to wrap your head around this one, just as a fan of the team, and stuff. So I feel for you guys. Snow Leopard said, feeling deflated, not really enough value. When are we going to be able to keep our good players? Picks are picks. No guarantee those players will be good. I totally get that sentiment. You want to be able to keep those guys, and Max wanted to be a Raider. He really did, and I think just the way things transpired at the tail end of the season and them shutting him down. I mean, Max is one of those dudes that takes when the wins and the playoff appearances aren't there. A guy like Maxx Crosby lives and dies for being able to like be out there for his teammates and play on Sundays and suit up each and every game. You know what I mean? And so when that was taken from him, I think that really kind of fried his brain a bit to where it was like, hey, wait a second. Almost like jarred him to have to sit back and think and reevaluate some things. And then realizing that even if he does think Clint is going to be able to turn this around and all that stuff, does he want to be here for all of that? Because it's going to be a timeline. They even said it. And I've ran the hell out of this every time I talk about it. The fact that Spytek said they know they have a mountain to climb and they're not trying to climb it in a day. And that to me is something that stands out, because it looks like in this situation, Max was like, man, I want to win now. I'm tired of being in rebuild after rebuild. So their timelines very likely just didn't match up. So that's why I think this happens here, Let's see. Old school with a lot of different letters after that said, relieved, no more clickbait. I totally feel you, dude. I'll be completely honest. As a media member who is wrapped up in all this stuff, like, I was sick and tired talking about that. Will he? Won't he? All this stuff. And I was getting that question on every single program that I got on, whether it was on Raider Nation Radio, who I love, or on ESPN Radio here in Las Vegas, or anytime I jumped on a TV station here as well. Everyone's always asking about Maxx Crosby and all that stuff. And I'm so glad now that we don't have to talk about if the trade happens. Now we can talk about how you guys, Raider Nation, and how the Raiders move forward from this one. That I think is the biggest thing for sure for me. That, like, now it's over. And now you guys can start to move ahead. I think that's the thing that's important here. Let's see. Mr. Dave Ball said they should have got another pick like day 2 or 3, heck, even 4. I will say this. Like, I thought possibly in lieu of 2 first-round picks and a player that somebody would throw the kicker in there of, like, you know, a day 2 or 3 pick, like a 3rd or a 4th. I thought that might happen. This just tells me that wasn't out there and that they valued so much more having 14 this year. 14 is a very valuable pick. Having a pick in the top 15 of a draft, when you know what it is, you know what players are there, you started to do some research, so you have an idea of who you could get. Like, that to me is what I think pushed it over the line for the Raiders. Because again, now that injecting another top 15 talent onto your team this year can help expedite that turnaround, you know, and really help you start to just build the foundation. And again, gives you a foundational piece to build around, like I said, very likely on the defensive side of the ball going forward for them. Because they have that's the other thing too. Think about this. So they've got Mendoza coming in. They obviously have Brock Bowers, and then they have Ashton Genty. Like, just those 3 right there, those are great foundational pieces on offense. Yes, they need a true number 1 wide receiver, but in terms of being able to build a foundation, those are great guys to be able to start to build around 100% there. Let's see. Bluegrass Raiders 6794 said Max didn't want to start over again with a new coach and staff, then goes to Baltimore, who has a new coach and staff. Yeah, totally get that, but I think it's a different situation. You know, yes, Jesse Minter is a new coach, and there's going to be change and all this stuff, but he's still from the Baltimore Ravens family. You know, it's not going to be all that different from what Harbaugh was doing there. You know, Minter has ties to that franchise and all of that stuff. So, like, that to me, I get it. And they also have their quarterback and Lamar Jackson too. So I just don't see there being like, it's apples to apples, orange to orange. You know what I mean? Like, it's that whole saying, like, it's not the same situation. You know, it's a little bit different, I think, by going to Baltimore. And again, like, I think it was an outlier what they did this season. I think the Ravens are a much better team than what they put on tape this year. And I think Jesse Minter will be able to kind of get them. It's almost like in hockey, you know, when you see a really good coach fired, or a team move on from a really good coach and they change, they go separate ways. Like, it's just like they just needed a new voice in the room. I think that's the case with the Ravens. And I think Jesse Minter will be able to go do that out there. Let's see. Randy Gonzalez says it's for the better for the team to do a real turnaround 2 years and then at least a decade of relevance. Hey, Randy, look, I think that's a really positive way to look at it. You know, they're committing to a true rebuild. I think, see what happens this year, this coming season. Let's say the Raiders win 6 games, but are very competitive even in all of those losses. I think that's a massive win for the Raiders. I hope you guys would be able to put up with that. And then the next year, a little bit of incremental improvement. Be like a game over 500 or something like that, you know? And then that 3rd year after the rebuild, now with 4 first-round picks in 2 years, and Mendoza having, you know, 2 years under his belt as a starter and hopefully being everything everyone thinks he's going to be. My God, the Raiders could be in such a different situation and could be set up for the future for such a foundation. And again, now having a coach who's just all about ball, like, everything looks like it could be going in the right direction. Obviously, a lot has to happen, but I agree with you. That's a really good way, I think, to go about thinking about it. You know what I mean? Let's see. Dags 6534 said he didn't want to be here. What were the Raiders supposed to do? Agreed. We kind of addressed that already. Like, if you didn't want to be there, like, go ahead and move them. You know, what happened to 2 firsts and a player? Yeah, we kind of dove into that a bit. You know, so I think that's one thing. Who do we take at 14? Offensive lineman. So for the guys that you know, weren't here early on the show, because I know some folks are jumping in late. We got over 330 people in here. Shout out to you guys jumping in on Friday night. Obviously we got plenty to talk about. I said they probably go Akeem Mesidor. I don't know if they go back-to-back offense, but they're probably going to go like best player available, because let's be real, the Raiders do have a lot of holes to fill. The reason I settled on Akeem Mesidor there at 14 is just because, to me, an edge rusher goes out the door and Maxx Crosby, try and find a big replacement for him right then and there at a similar type of position. And that's the next guy, that very likely could be there. That's a great spot to be. I mean, Spencer Fano, I believe he's a left tackle. You guys got to forgive me too, because I'm still kind of picking up now. We're going to be doing a lot more deep dives on the first round because we already kind of knew who the first round pick was going to be. I was looking at a lot of the guys like later in the first round. But, there's also, again, Mekhi Lemon. I know we had talked about a lot of that. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. He's another edge. They could go corner, maybe McCoy from Tennessee. There's a lot of options. And again, we got to start diving in to really see who is actually going to be available at that time. Let's see. Spaceby said, we'll go get our wide receiver now. Yeah, hey, look, again, that's the big thing. We got to wait and see, what happens for them. I don't know that they're going to go receiver in the first round. Free agency could be very interesting. We just dropped a full preview on that. I threw some names out there. Obviously, Alec Pierce is like the belle of the ball. He is going to get a ton of money. I don't know if the Raiders are going to throw a bag at him, but God, in terms of deep threat, like he's one of those guys for sure. Let's see. Let me see what else we got here in the chat, guys. Omar Garcia said it had to happen. He didn't want to start over, and we could start the rebuild with more ammo. Agreed. More ammo to do this. Like, you have to do it. And J Ham Raider said this makes more room for a new leader. Agreed 100%. Now, let's look at Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. What are you guys going to do as a leader? I can't tell you how many times when I was at the facility, and obviously Brock Bowers is a leader, but he doesn't talk a lot. Devontae Adams called him the businessman because he just comes in, does his thing, and is quiet, just laser focused on that. Ashton Genty, though, as a rookie, I saw real leadership moments from him. Geno Smith, which I know an unpopular guy amongst Raider Nation circles, but he talked so much about how much leadership Ashton Genty showed. There were plenty of times after a handful of Geno picks, Ashton's going over and picking Geno up. Say, hey, man, on to the next one, there for him. So I think this is a big moment for Ashton to really step up. Just as an aside, too, Alec Ingold and the Dolphins are parting ways. I think he very likely returns. I mean, one of the best fullbacks in football, no better fit than to come back to the organization that he loved. Good dude. Yes, I know he's not like a premier position player, but God, in this offense, that fullback spot can be. And who better than him in terms of just human being to come in and help be a leader in this franchise after having a couple of years in a system that's adjacent to this out there with Mike McDaniel. So, yeah, I think that's a guy that would be really interesting coming in. Let's see. Arthur Brackens, one thing I love about SpyTech is that he understands that trading back is good business. 100%. That's the thing that I think is interesting is let's see, are they in a no man's land for where they want to be? Is there a team that really wants to jump up? They are even kind of in that range where some folks have talked about the quarterback from Alabama going. That's something I think that's really interesting too. Is there somebody that wants to trade up for Ty Simpson in the teens? That again, that's a big jump. A lot of people saying he maybe goes in the 20s, possibly later first round as well. But is there somebody that falls in love with Ty Simpson and wants to jump up and get him? That could be interesting, or any other player there as well. Silver and Black Shield says, great trade. Look, again, I agree. I think in terms of what you're looking for, like that's a great return on where things were at in this process. And now heading into free agency, exactly what you have and how you can move forward. Free agency also gets a hell of a lot more interesting too. There's so many ways they could do this, and they could find Max's replacement in free agency as well. That's going to be something that's so interesting to see. Young Sem City Chris 2614 said Crosby did us a favor by not making it public that he wanted out. Kept the trade value there. Agreed. He did do you a favor. I mean, league circles, they knew what was going on. They knew the business. But I just think in terms of like being a pro about it, that's where I think it stands out the most about what Max did. So I give him credit and kudos to that. I know some people have tried to call him a diva for that whole thing. I don't agree with those terms whatsoever when it comes to Max. I think he handled this as good as he could. He just tried to sit back and say he didn't want to say a lot, didn't want to overanalyze, didn't want people to overanalyze or rip apart what he said. So I just think, hey, you do your thing and let's do it. Somebody asked, could Ruben Bain fall to 14? I don't think he could, but God, if he did, you go and get him. That's a guy that very likely goes in the top 6, top 8 of the draft. I don't see him getting out of there. A couple of people saying, yeah, we need Bain for sure. Let's see. But I just don't think that ends up happening. Let's see. Snow Bengal says, it hurts to see Max go, but I would be lying if I'm not excited about the possibilities at 14. 100%. Again, looking at the possibilities at 14, that's just what excites things so much. Excuse me, guys. I'd take a sip here of some water. Having another pick is definitely something that's interesting. Here's one I see. Jeffrey YW1TE said, what if Caleb Downs is there at 14? That's one that I thought of as well as I started sitting back looking at it. I'd imagine he very likely isn't there at 14, but if he is, that's a very interesting guy to be able to snag there. Okay. You go and get Fernando Mendoza's teammate. You know, that kid did some big time things at Indiana and would be a hell of a player to watch. You know, not Indiana. My God. Sorry. Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. That would be an interesting guy to bring in. Obviously didn't test the combine, but his tape speaks for itself. I think the kid out of Oregon as well, the safety, Dylan Thieneman, if he happens to get past the Cowboys possibly at 12, that's another guy that I think, just total game changer, playmaker back there. I think that would be really interesting. Arthur Bracken said, I think Mesidor is overrated. Hey, and that's completely fair. Like I said, I'm just giving up my knee-jerk reaction of I think the way they could go. I got to dig deeper into him to get a better read on him, but he seems like a guy that has the positional versatility with then switching to that 4-3. I think he could be your end or your edge in this system. Good run defender, plays with a motor. Like you want guys that can play with that motor. That's going to be massive for them. So again, that's why I think he stands out interesting to me. See, Randy Gonzalez 84-3 says D-line or O-line, either one we win. Yes, agreed. And that's the thing is I think we are going to see this staff really invest in trying to build up the trenches on both sides of the ball. Because we make football so complicated. All of us do. I do sometimes too. But at the end of the day, all it is about winning in the trenches. And if you build those up, it makes life so much easier. If you have a good offensive line and a good defensive line, you can get by with some somewhat average players on the outside and things like that built up around them. So yeah, I think we're going to see them invest heavily into the offense and defensive lines. Wash Gamer 1979 says, trade down from 14. You can get a second and maybe a third or a fourth. We are not one player away. We need as many good picks as possible. Mesidor at 14 is too high, in my honest opinion. Hey, totally fine there. And I think, look, trading down, and if you can get a second and a third, fourth, whatever, that's also very interesting too. I think there's a way they can find out to keep themselves in the first round and get a second. That I think would be massive. More picks the merrier, again, because the Raiders do have so many holes on this team. And that was the thing that I thought was funny, the national narrative, where they're like, oh, the Raiders aren't ready for Fernando Mendoza. They have so many needs. You can't address all the other needs in one offseason. They got a shitload of cap space, and obviously they have all these picks, and now they have two first-round picks. They're going to be able to build up around this team. And if you go and trade down, you get even more picks to be able to build up this whole deal around Mendoza and just really build your team. So yeah, the more picks you can get, the merrier is the way that I think it is. And user MRJ1M says the key is drafting the right players. 100%. You have to nail it on these, because we saw what happened with the Raiders when they had the 5 first-round picks in 3 years. Some of the things out of their control, some of the things within their control of who they end up picking and it not working out. You got to get it right. Otherwise, you're going to be in the same situation 3-4 years from now. So gotta hit on these picks, especially in the first round. That just has to be the case. These have to be guys that are there for a second contract. If you hit on these 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years, and each of these guys sign a second contract with the Raiders, or at least have their 5th-year option picked up, the Raiders are going to be in a really good spot. That's for sure. Let's see. Cheville said, what about Peter Woods from Clemson? Yeah, that's another interesting one as well. I've dug into him a bit. I know some people thinking he's going to be more of a later first-round pick. So again, is that a guy maybe they trade back a bit to try and get in there? That's the thing that I think is going to be more interesting to watch with that one. Let's see. Jay Tact says, you act like the Divas now is a free position and wouldn't cost $2 million less for a player. They might be cut in 1 to 2 years. Sorry, I'm not really following that one, so I'm just going to move on. Sorry, dude. Young Sam City 2614 said Raiders now have over $1 million to spend in free agency. Yeah, let that sink in for a second there. Over $100 million to spend in free agency. They're going to be able to address a lot of needs. I said it in my free agency preview. For those guys that are watching now, if you haven't already seen that, make sure you go check that out. We dropped that on Thursday. It was both with me just doing a full breakdown of the guys that I think would be the shrewd pickups. And then also Vinny Bonsignor joined me as well for his take on free agency and their approach. Obviously, it was before this news, but I think a lot of it still stands true. Instead of just sitting there throwing money at the club, I think what they're going to be doing is making a lot of really shrewd hires, trying to find some guys that are all like young dudes. There's a lot of 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds out there that are really talented that could be on the verge of a breakout that you can bring in here and bring them in here for the long haul, and some other really shrewd picks as well. So I would just keep an eye on, see how they go and spend those things. That's the biggest thing that I'm interested to see. Let's see. Someone just said, let's see. Ant ... said, if Jordan Tyson is there, KK can pick his JSN. Yeah, look, Jordan Tyson, I'll say this. My girlfriend went to Arizona State. Her family, they're big Sun Devils. They love this kid. And personally, this is just me looking from afar. The couple games that I did watch with all of them, watching Tyson, he almost seems like he's got some diva in him. You're speaking about a former receiver. I get it. We all get the diva position thing, and I hate to throw that on the kid because, again, I don't know a ton about him. But I'm just saying my first read was like, I don't know. That kid could be a headache down the road. But my girlfriend's dad said, like, no, that's not the case. Like, he's a good dude. I've seen his game. He is obviously a dog. So that would be a very interesting option. If Clint Kubiak can't get his JSN in this draft, whew. But now, again, I think the fact that the Raiders have 2 first-round picks, they can get the kid out of Ohio State possibly next year. That could be your JSN right there as well, not to just throw same school, all that stuff in there. But Jordan Tyson, in terms of game on the field there, that kid looks like he's a player. I just am curious what he is, off the field and kind of what his attitude is like and stuff. Let's see. The chat's jumping on me a little bit here. I was trying to go one by one through a lot of the folks on here, so sorry, guys. But let's see. Bat Crimes said, let's hope the Jets trade for Geno before he is released. Yeah, hey, look, that would be something that's interesting. I was actually on Fox 5 here in Las Vegas today. They have the Silver State Sports Entertainment Network. Actually just launched a new live show that they're doing every day at 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. A lot of fun. Shout out to Mike Davis and Mariah Janos, 2 of the best here in the business here in Vegas. And we were talking about that. And I was saying, man, with Geno, it would be very interesting to see if for whatever reason, maybe the Jets come back into the fold. Obviously, the Vikings look like an interesting landing spot as well. I will say this. I don't think anybody is ultimately going to trade for him. Usually when word gets out that you're going to release him, they end up getting released. You don't end up getting anything for him. But shoot, even if they can get like a 6th or a 7th for him, that would be huge to be able to recoup something after trading, the 3rd-round pick and then also giving him the $75 million extension. I know he was like the 2nd most expensive, like one-and-done guy or something like that. If I remember right, I thought I saw that on Twitter earlier. Let's see. Going through the chat here, Paul Rader said, Spytech is cooking. Yeah, hey, look, he sat back and let everybody do a lot of talking and let the offers come to him. And again, I think this is probably the best offer they were going to be able to get, especially in terms of the pick this year, knowing exactly what you have at 14. And also, again, if you do choose to trade out, whatever it is from 14, trade up, trade back, like you have it. You know what it is now this year. And that, I think, again, is a very interesting thing. Let's see. Mr. Music Paramore said, I have a feeling Spy is going to turn that 2nd first-round pick into a late first and at least a 2nd-round pick, maybe a 4th as well. Yeah, look, a couple people have said that. I think it would be very, very interesting to see where that ends up, going in terms of if he does indeed do that, in terms of trading back. This is a guy that's not afraid to make some moves. I'm real curious to see what he does with this one. I'll jump back up into the chat a little bit here, but want to give a shout out to Christopher Corona, 7978. Thank you for the super chat, man. I do appreciate that. Let's get to your question here. He said, in my opinion, the Ravens are a bit closer, but they also have a new coach, not likely huge contenders. Must be Brady's guys that sent him away. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily the case. I just think it's one of those situations where Spytech probably sat back and was like, I see the situation. We are embracing a real rebuild. Let's get a move in there. But I do agree with you that the Ravens are a bit closer. And yes, they do have a new coach. And we addressed this a little bit earlier in the show, so I don't want to dive into it too much, but I do want to make sure I give your question its due because I do appreciate the super chat there. Anytime you guys do the super chats, I appreciate that. I'm not sitting here asking for the tips by any means, but man, when you guys do it, I appreciate it. Because look, this is what I'm doing full time, and I went all in on this brand here with the Raiders. So anytime you guys feel the need to do that, like, super appreciative of it. So thank you guys for that. But I think the Ravens are in a really good position. Jesse Minter coming there, doing what he did there, with the Chargers. Now look at that defense that they have when you add Maxx Crosby into the mix. Like, good God, they have a squad on the defensive side of the ball. Having Maxx Crosby and Kyle Hamilton alone is already wild. Let's see what they do offensively. Are they able to bring Linderbaum back? I know you guys want Linderbaum, so don't come at me on that one. But if they are able to bring him back and they have Lamar Jackson as well already, that's going to be, they're going to be able to do some big things. Also, too, if you guys were watching on Twitter, Lamar Jackson had the news like 7 hours before it all dropped. He threw out the Denzel thing where it was like boom, and we were all like, oh, what's going on? He called the shot, and he did it. Let's see. Paul Raider 4 said Geno has been released already. No, he has not, and unless that happened while we jumped on here earlier today. What they were reporting is that he will be released. He has not, in fact, been released yet. Again, unless that's something I missed when we've been on a live show. But they're saying he will be released unless a trade partner emerges. That's what all that was. Let's see. PER Formula said, shout out, Jesse. Shout out to you, dude. I appreciate you. Thanks to all you guys, too, honestly, for jumping on a Friday night. I appreciate you guys joining us for this live breakdown. Seriously, these things are fun. We're going to be doing 2 live shows next week for free agency as well. At least that's what I'm planning right now. On Tuesday at 10 a.m. and then also Thursday at 10 a.m. We'll be doing live breakdowns of the Raiders free agency moves and all that stuff, because obviously all the fun kicks off on Monday. If something crazy happens on Monday, I'll throw in another, on the spot live show as well. But yeah, that's what we're planning for right now. Jose Espinosa said, what about Mekhi Lemon? His route tree and catch are nice. Agreed. Look, Mekhi Lemon is a monster. Like, if they could get him, that would be something that's interesting there. But again, I just don't see them investing a first-round pick this year with where they're at in a receiver. I don't know that, and I hate this whole like, oh, they're not ready for him thing, because I know I just said that about the whole Mendoza stuff earlier on the show. I just don't see them investing that pick in a receiver. Could be totally wrong, but personally, I just don't see that necessarily happen, being the case. Let's see. Boomhauer's haberdashery. Love that handle, dude. That is hilarious. Said Max, best not cover that tattoo. Here's one thing I will tell you. And there's been a lot of people that have made jokes about the whole tattoo and all that stuff. Max, even though he's a member of the Ravens, you better believe he will never forget who gave him his first shot in the NFL, what team he played for. This guy does and very well always will bleed silver and black. That man will never cover up that tattoo. I'd be willing to bet money on that. That guy still loves Mark Davis, loves the Raiders, loves you guys, Raider Nation as well. So he ain't covering that thing up. I'd be willing to bet money on that one. That is for sure. I would be blown away if anything happened like that. Like I said, I don't know if maybe he's dropped a goodbye video or tweet or message or anything like that since we've been on here. But if and when that happens, you better believe that is going to be one of the more heartfelt things you have ever seen from a former player, because this dude just loves the nation 100%, and he will always put on for the Raiders. I believe that to my core. We already kind of talked about TNVG 238. We already talked about who some of the leaders will be. Like I said, I think Ashton Genty is that guy. Backcrime said we need to get all the available free agents from Seattle because they already know the playbook. Yeah, look, a lot of the guys from Seattle are dogs. I said Boye Mafe is the dude I want to see the Raiders go after. Go back and watch the podcast, hear my full breakdown. But long story short, all the metrics in terms of what he could be show that guy is going to outperform the deal that he could get. That's my pick for like the shrewdest pick of the bunch. I do not like bringing in Rashid Shaheed personally. Again, I think he's going to command too much at that receiver spot, and I think he's more special teamer / take the lid off type of guy. I think they could go a different route on that one. Let's see what else we got here. Here, Long Raider Night. I want to make sure I get to yours because, dude, I like all the folks who are on here. I appreciate all of you. But Long Raider Night, you are one of the guys who's in the comments on like damn near every video, a bunch of the shorts, a lot of the clips that we post, all that stuff. So I appreciate the hell out of you and all the folks who join on and are constantly starting back and forth with all of us. So Long Raider Night, man, appreciate you, big dog. Let's see. Embrace the change, folks. I don't love it, but I understand why it's happening. I don't think they will be able to afford Linderbaum now, so maybe we can. Look, they can afford Linderbaum. That's obviously a lot of chunk. That's a lot of money. He's going to get anywhere from 20 to 24 mil a year. It's going to be an insane amount of money that man gets paid. I forget who it was. Somebody was saying that if they could trade places with anybody for the week, I think Daniel Jeremiah said this, it would be Linderbaum's agent. And I agree, because that is going to be a wild week. He has all the leverage. So he's going to be a big time payday. I just personally, I'm like, man, I'm just so curious to see how that works out with Linderbaum. Personally, I don't think he's going to end up here in Vegas, but I hope I'm wrong, because he could totally flip that offensive line around. I just think he's going to look around, survey the landscape, and somebody else will pay him the money he wants, and he'll probably go somewhere where he can contend, right away, or at least be in a better position. You know what I mean? Let's see. 44, the hobo said Mendoza, Lemon, Genty, Bowers. Look, that is one hell of a combo. Even TNVG238 said, is Lemon the next close to JSN at 14? I think he might be. I'll be honest about that. Like in terms of like similarity or who could be that like game-changing type guy, yes, that's probably him. And look, maybe the Raiders do go all in offensively and say, hey, we're just going to have all the guys. If they did that, then Clint's got his trio of weapons and his quarterback back there that can play point guard and distribute. Again, though, I think we see them address defense because they need somebody that can be the foundational piece on the defensive side of the ball. Mr. Music Paramore said, I can see us going after Jeremiah Smith next year in the first with those extra picks. Would be smart because many teams will be chasing QBs in the first and then trade their way to the top to ensure it. Agree 100%. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier on in the show. Jeremiah Smith is a guy that I think now they'll really be able to target and zero in on next year. That kid is unbelievable. Can't wait to see the scout of him. They'll have the ammo to get him wherever it slots up. But again, yeah, like you said, many teams going to be chasing their quarterbacks. So now you can kind of play that game and take advantage of it. And with 2 first-round picks in that draft, as the rest of the teams are going after those QBs, you can just scoop up a lot of unreal football players. So that's going to be interesting for sure. Let's see. Ant ... said 14 is right in front of Tampa Bay. Any team that wants Sadiq could trade up for that freak tight end. Eagles at 23 and Niners at 27 come to mind. That's a really good, and look, that's a good take right there. I didn't think about that yet. Sadiq is a freak 100%. And now being in that spot to possibly be able to trade out and allow them to come up, whoo, doggy, that would be crazy, to do that. So that's another wrinkle added into it. I could see Spy doing something like that. That would be, ooh, man. So, yeah, if the Eagles jump up at 23, the Niners at 27. So if the Raiders were to end up just off the rip to your question, if they end up at like 23, 27, I'd be looking at Emmanuel McNeil-Warren or some of the defensive tackles, maybe Caden McDonald. He's probably going to be a late first-round pick. Talking with Matt Holder, he was saying that's a guy that he would lean to, so maybe keep an eye on that. Maybe, like I said, even the kid out of Clemson, the right tackle, I really like him. That's another guy I would keep an eye on there as well. Let's see. Kyle Piper, 7137. Raiders didn't want no media smoke on local radio. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one, man. Let's see. Downs more. Kyle Piper said Downs more likely, but doubt it. Yeah, Downs. If he slides, Downs would be a really interesting pick for sure. I think that would be real interesting. Let's see. Let's see. TNVG 238 again. You've been active in the comments, man. You said if we're not able to sign Tyler Linderbaum, what other options at center and free agency? So I'll say this. I really liked Biadish. I was like, man, that's going to be the guy that would fit so much what the Raiders want to be able to do. The Chargers obviously end up signing him or come to terms with him. So that's obviously not going to come to fruition. So I think, and you guys aren't going to love this, obviously McGovern, first of all, Connor McGovern from the Bills. He's got versatility, guard, center. If you sign him, he is a center. He is going to be your center. I think he's a guy that they would be in on, but also maybe as insurance, quote unquote, Lloyd Cushenberry, okay? Because he has experience with Clint Kubiak dating back to Denver. Clint was the quarterback's coach and I think passing game coordinator there in Denver. Also, Mike McCoy was in Tennessee last year as well. Yes, I know he just had an injury, but he is expected to be ready to roll for the season. So I think that would be a guy where maybe they sign him and then still draft somebody this year. I would look in the 3rd round, Sam Hecht. That's the kid that I've had circled in silver and black. Like, God, that kid needs to be a Raider. You saw him at the combine. He went viral for having that big old butt. That kid has a frame, can sit down, and the technique off the charts from everybody that I talked to, and would fit this scheme so well. Real headsy. Football IQ is off the charts. So that could be a kid that, yes, he's young, but he could come in and kind of solidify your offensive line and be your center to grow with Mendoza for the foreseeable future. There's a lot of really good centers in this draft. And so I could see the Raiders, if they strike out on Linderbaum, like I said, go into a Cushenberry as a backup plan and then see what happens in the draft and bring somebody in and let both of them compete. That's something I think that we could actually see them do it. Let's see. Ant ... said the TDL boys just fired up a stream, so I'm going to go check out what they have to say. Had some good convos here. Yeah, hey, shout out to the TDL guys. For those of you, I don't want people flooding out of here to go do that, but look, they do a Friday night show every night, so if you guys feel the need to go jump in on that, go do it because they are awesome. We're going to get Marcus Johnson onto the show pretty soon here. You guys saw Matt Holder join us as well last week or this week on Tuesday. Those guys are awesome. Love them 100%. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. No shade whatsoever on any of that. Like if you guys want to check them out, I do understand that. They've got the long running Friday Night Lives. Let's see. Snow Leopard 9741 said having a lot of cap space is great. Wanting to sign good players is also great, but who is going to want to play here? Yeah, look, there was someone that was saying like, oh, why would anybody want to come to the Raiders and all that stuff? Go back and look at all the player grades. When the NFLPA released that, the Raiders, I think, were 6th highest graded, even coming off of a 3-win season. And a lot of the poor grades were about the coaching staff. And so most of those guys have been moved out of the way. So you got to imagine they're going to go up in terms of facilities, the way they're treated, the way Mark Davis treats them, all that stuff. And the home field, I know the home field advantage hasn't necessarily been there because obviously everybody wants to come to Vegas and the Raiders haven't been that great. So I understand a lot of folks selling those tickets, but people want to come here because, God, they're treated so well. No state income tax is big with a lot of these football players as well. And you're talking about millions upon millions of dollars, so there's a lot of reasons why guys want to come here. But as John Spytek said, football is all about momentum. Okay. If they hit it in free agency this year with some shrewd moves, if they hit it in the draft this year with those 2 first-round picks, we'll see what exactly they do with 14 and the rest of the draft, and they show some momentum with their quarterback, guys are going to want to come play here. Like, believe that for sure. Guys will 100% want to come here and play. Let's see. Randall68 said Kalavion Chason is only 26 years old. Yeah, that's the other thing that's interesting too. He is a guy that I think Spytek talks a lot about, like, getting hurt when good players walk out the door. That is a guy that I think was going to be real interesting. I think Chason could be an option to come back. Obviously, he has the familiarity with Rob Leonard. Rob helped him go get paid over there in New England. So, yeah, keep an eye on him as well. That could be one 100%. There was somebody who just gave a shout-out from TJ in Mexico. Oh, I just missed it. There we go. We got Pagozar1667. Hola, dude. Jesse, hi from TJ Mexico. Shout-out, dude. Hey, thanks for joining. One thing I want to start doing, too, I know there's a lot of fans from Mexico. On some of the videos, I'm trying to figure out how to do like the AI translation, to send it down there for you guys so you guys can listen to the show. Puedo hablar un poquito de español, pero es muy malo. Hace muchos años que no estudio español. I used to be pretty good at it. I studied Spanish for like 6 years, but I haven't been like up on it. So, shout out to the folks listening in from Mexico. I appreciate you guys, for coming in here. Let's see. Looking through the comments. Paul Rader 4L said, what do you think about Jake Slaughter, center from Florida? Yeah, I like him. He tested really well at the combine, really good athleticism. Like I said, there's just so many good centers in this draft. That's the reason why I could see them going with a Cushenberry and kind of not punting, quote unquote, but looking ahead to the draft and going that route and bringing in one of those guys, because there's just a bunch. There's a kid from Iowa, Logan Jones, right? Jones? I think this is his name, Jones, the kid from Iowa. And then also Pat Coogan, from Indiana. I know a lot of people didn't love the way that he played in that game against Miami. There's some dogs there. And yes, that's as close as you're going to get to NFL competition, but there's the connection with Mendoza. Hey, guys, I think Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I think we just we lost our connection on the stream there. I got the good internet too from Cox. What the hell? I'm in the process of actually changing the internet over because anybody that's here in Vegas or has worked with Cox internet before, they know that they kind of suck. So sorry if we just dipped out on the stream there. I don't know what happened, but that was crazy. Let's see. There's some folks in here not happy with Brady and Kubiak and Spytek. Let's see. Pagozar1667 said, thank you, Max. You will be missed. Yeah, no, I get that, man. Like I said, I'm going to miss covering Max for sure, but yeah, having Kubiak here will bring people here. I agree 100%. Like Kubiak and the pedigree and the family that he comes from, guys will want to come play for the Raiders and want to come play for a guy like him, especially if he has success with Mendoza, with Brock Bowers, and with Genty early on here. And two, if Rick Dennison and company and all of them could come in and elevate the offensive line. And obviously, again, they're going to be adding pieces, but if they can elevate the offensive line and show measured improvement there, that's going to be a total game changer for them too. So yeah, they're going to be able to attract guys. The Raiders won't have problems with that. That won't be a problem at all, and so that's one thing. Yeah. Paul Rader, you said there, yeah, you saw Pat Coogan, not play too hot there against Lee Hunter. And yeah, I get that. Totally get that. Like I said, Lee Hunter is a dog, and look, he's a big bodied guy too. And like I said, those are as close to the NFL guys as you're going to see, so let's see. We dropped to the O-line. Randall68 said, could some good defensive player drop if there's a run on no lineman? Yeah, one of them definitely could. Again, we'll kind of wait and see what it looks like. Like, again, I haven't been doing a ton of work on the draft outside of number one in terms of the first round just because they didn't have a pick. So now we're going to start diving more and more into that. But there could be some runs on alignment. You know, there's always runs, especially maybe even in those teens areas, right around where that pick is. And, you know, the point of somebody earlier where they said, would somebody want to jump up and trade for the tight end from Oregon there? One of those teams want to grab him because he's a game changer. That could open the door for the Raiders to be able to trade back as well. Let's see. Mr. Mole 75 said, I would build the offense first instead of trying to do both at the same time. That's fair too, man. I totally get that approach. Like, look, there's more pieces to be able to build around offensively. But my thing is like, make life, and Spytech even said this as well, about wanting to make life easier on a young quarterback. And yes, he's talking about Mendoza, but like, so because let's just be honest about that. But he is saying like that he wants to build around the guy and make it easier on him, fix the offensive line, invest with pieces around him, but also like make it so he doesn't have to score 1,000,000 points. You know what I mean? Make it easier on Clint Kubiak to be able to call his offense. That's why I think we're going to see the Raiders. Like, I was thinking before the Maxx trade that they were going to be going heavy offensively in the draft. I think they're going to obviously invest in the offensive line, like I said, but they may run it back with a lot of pieces offensively that they already have here in house, outside of bringing in Fernando Mendoza and maybe one or two other pieces here. But I think they're going to invest heavily in the defense, trying to build up all around them, because that, again, is like the key. You have to invest in the defense to be able to stop somebody. You know, you don't want to have to score 30-plus points. I mean, the Raiders have scored 30 points, twice in the last 4 years, 3 years, something like that? I forget. I looked it up a while ago. It's been a long time. You know, so, yeah, they need to invest. I think I get what you're saying there, and I'm not trying to dog you or anything like that by any means, but like, and because it's a fair thing to think that, like, hey, build the offense up first. There's more pieces there. Get the offense cooking and turn it into a shootout and hope the defense can slow them down. But I think in a first-year defensive coordinator with Rob Leonard in there, try and build both of them up at the same time, and also realize, too, you do have more foundational pieces offensively. Now you need to build up that defense and add more pieces in that way. That's my approach. That's where I would be going with it there. Let's see. Long Raider Knight said, I think in the teens we can get Peter Woods now. Yeah, again, that's one thing. Like, I'm curious to see where he ends up going, because that's a guy a lot of you folks were asking about as well. Let's see. Snow Leopard said, yeah, a lot of cap space. Not a lot of players under contract. We'll need to spend wisely. Couldn't agree more. That's the biggest thing. We've talked about it with Spytech a lot, is the fact of needing to be intelligently aggressive is the term that he used. I think that's going to be a story of the Raiders moving forward here in the offseason. Got to be intelligently aggressive and look for the shrewd moves. That's why, again, if you guys go back and watch my free agency preview, that's where I do a deep dive more so into the guys that are probably going to be like not the most expensive guys, and not necessarily going bargain hunting, but just finding guys that are good deals. Again, I talked about the fact of how the Raiders have missed in the draft and seen a lot of guys walk out the door. And so there's some areas specifically on defense where they're a little devoid of some young talent. So like, reinvest into that and hit on young guys in free agency and also in the draft. That's the thing for sure there. Let's see. Mr. Mole 75 said, good point on limiting points to help a QB and help a new coordinator. All depends what happens in free agency. Yeah, again, next week it just got a hell of a lot more interesting. That's the thing. I'm so interested to see what free agency looks like next week. Let's see. Gregory Delarome, sorry if I butchered that one, dude. He said, go get Mafe and Chase on. Yeah, again, I think if they did that, not that they're world beaters by any means, but I like what Chason did. And again, I really like Mafe. I know he's settled more into like a rotational role or took a step back last year in terms of his role. But God, that's a stacked defense up there in Seattle. That guy is primed to do some bigger things. And he is still put up when he got his opportunity. Like, his pass rush win rate is like, I think it was top 8. You know, his pass rush win rate, good God, that's a tough one to say, was better than Aiden Hutchinson, better than Jalen Phillips, better than Maxx Crosby. Like, that guy has put up when he's had his opportunities for sure. Let's see. Long Raider Knight said, if Rodriguez moved himself up into the first round, we got to be the ones to take him. I think he's going to be more like a late first round deal, you know, and man, again, maybe that's a situation where if somebody wants to jump up, they trade back. You know, that's the thing. I think where it ends up getting interesting there, you know, for the Raiders. Like, I'm so curious to see how they approach this one, being almost smack dab in the middle of the draft there. It's God, that's an interesting spot for them to be. But again, I'm just fired up for them. They have an extra pick, because now that makes draft night so much more interesting for us. And I can't wait to get there. Guys, we've been going about 55 minutes, and you guys have been rocking it in the comments. I appreciate you so much, but it is a Friday night, so I got to go enjoy the rest of my night. So thank you guys for joining us. Mr. Mole said your Spanish was good, by the way, buddy. Keep up the great work with your channel. No fluff, all ball and practical, applicable commentary. That's a hell of a way to go out. I appreciate you, Mr. Mole, on that one. Yeah, my Spanish is más o menos. Like I said, I got to practice it more. My girlfriend and I, she speaks a little bit of Spanish too, so we do use it back and forth a bit. I want to get back to studying it more regularly because I did love it. But maybe you guys don't care about that personal part of me right there. I don't know. But I do love Spanish, man. It was fun. I studied it for 6 years. Like I said, it was awesome. So again, thank you guys, all of you, for joining us, for jumping in on the show. Like, you guys rock. I know this is a tough time for you guys. Someone said Omar Cooper at 14. Woo, that'd be interesting. Omar Cooper is a dog. Again, the familiarity with Fernando Mendoza. I got to stop. Otherwise, we'll be on here for like 2 hours, guys. God, I want to keep talking and going back and forth with you guys. For those of you that did just jump in here, go ahead and start the video over and watch the whole breakdown of it all. But again, I know it's a bittersweet moment for all of you guys as Max now goes out the door. But keep your heads up, guys. You got a lot of ammo to be able to do this thing the right way and build it the right way. And I'm so excited to see how the Raiders do it. And I'm so excited now to be able to dive back into the first round, start doing more breakdowns, more deep dives into all the players that are available to them. Man, it just made the offseason that much more exciting. So again, shout out to all of you. Thank you guys for joining the live. Go check out the dudes over on TDL as well and watch their breakdown because they're all awesome as well. Hit the likes, subscribe, do all that good stuff for all of you folks that are still in here watching. If you haven't already subscribed, if you are still watching, you've made it 56 minutes plus or whatever time you jumped in on here on, tells me you like what we're doing. So please, again, make sure you hit the likes, make sure you boost this video, and again, subscribe. Also check us out online as well at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com as well too, and sign up for our free Raiders newsletter. It drops every Friday morning, chock full of all the latest Raiders news, insights, analysis. I have a lot of fun putting that together. But again, guys, I'm going to shut up. I got to go eat some dinner. That news broke right as I was getting ready to chow down on some dinner. So I got to go heat it back up. Again, thank you guys for watching and listening. And again, unless anything else wild happens over the weekend or on Monday, obviously when the tampering window opens, we will catch you guys again live on Tuesday at 10 a.m. right here on the Silver and Black Sports Network. As always, guys, thank you for watching and listening, and have a hell of a weekend, guys. Now just relax now that the Maxx Crosby news happened, all right? Take it easy.